Hi, I'm Ron Fortier. I'm the managing editor of Airship 27 Productions. All right, we're an outfit that's been around for 7 years now. We produce new pulp anthologies and novels based on classic pulp characters from the 1930s. We've been coming here at the Windy City Paper and Pulp Convention, where we are right now, for the last 7 years. Myself and my art director partner, Rob Davis. If you look at the table in front of us, this has been a hobby that's taken off and become a little business all of its own because we found a market for this thing. People love pulps and new generations are discovering it. As of last year, we had one table and it was all too obvious that our catalog was getting way too big for that one table. This year we bit the bullet, we've got 2 tables, and it's still growing. I mean, we're getting new writers, new artists every day. We're building a market, an audience. People come back to the show every year to see what new stuff we have. It's really exciting. It's really a lot of fun and rewarding, to the point where we're taking it to another level this year. We've invited several of our writers who work for Airship 27 to join us here at Windy City to autograph and sign copies of their books. One of those being my good friend Joe Bonadano, who is a Chicago resident. Joe has written a book called 3 Against the Stars. It's a space opera. And Joe, why don't you tell me a little bit about the book?
Well, years ago I had written a screenplay. I wanted to do an old-fashioned homage to Flash Gordon and it's a lot of the old adventure movies and see what I could put together. Actually, a screenplay, shopped it around. And when I ran into Ron a few years ago, we were talking, and I says, I think I've got something that, it'd be a challenge to take a screenplay, turn it into a novel, and I think 60,000 words, no problem. So I said, let me challenge myself and see if I could do it. And I sat down, and it took me about 6 months, 7 months, and I sent it to Ron, and he read it.
It was our cup of tea, because Joe wrote, is essentially a space opera story. And as he says, it harkens back to the days of science fiction, the early birth of science fiction. We're talking the 30s and the 1940s. You're looking at, again, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, Commando Cody kind of stuff. The book is fast-paced, got great characters, and it just moves. It's just a beautiful book. We designed it. We got a young artist named Laura Givens to do the cover for us, to paint the cover. And I'm trying to remember who we got to do the interior illustration.
Pedro Cruz.
There you go. Right.
Pedro Cruz, yeah.
Who is an art instructor from Portugal. And one of the cool things about pulps and the internet today is that we literally have a pool of talent that's global. We have British writers, we have Chinese artists. The pulp community is expanding every day thanks to the internet, and the internet is making it thrive and keeping it alive. We started writing and accepting newer works that are what we call modern thrillers. Our umbrella is, and try to understand, we look at pulp as a form, a style of literature. That is what I said before. Packed with action, colorful characters, exotic locales. So although we began by doing books that paid homage to the 1930s and those settings, recently we've had new writers giving us these kind of mysteries and thrillers that are modern day thrillers. One of them being, if you're passing the book, no, the other one, which is the modern one. Mike Barron is a very well-known comic writer who won Eisner Awards for his work on The Badger and Nexus for his comics, maybe 20 years ago, back in the 80s. Mike is now getting into writing fiction. He discovered Airship 27, what we did. We had a discussion about what pulp literature is, and Mike said, you know what, I've got a novel that's a thriller. It's a modern day thriller. It takes place in the bug culture. It's about an ex-con who helps a woman find her son who's been kidnapped. I read the book and said to myself, what difference does it make if it's 1930s or 2013? This is a pulp novel. And so we accepted it for publication. It's one of our newest ones. It's only been out a few months now. And Mike brings his own audience with him anyways. It's exciting. And it's opening up, the avenue of what we'll be publishing in the future. We're looking to broaden that as much as we can. We do an adult thriller like this. And I'm sorry I can't show you this, but the newest book that came out of Airship 27, and you're going to have a ball with this, is a children's book. We've actually published a children's pulp book, which is called Barry Baskerville Solves the Case. It's a story about a 10-year-old little boy who wants to be Sherlock Holmes. We found an illustrator, we put it out, and what we're doing with this, and I think it's obvious to understand that, is that we're trying to work to a younger market to teach them what kind of escapist literature, what fine you can do with your imagination when you get into pulps. And so by entering into the children's market, we're teaching little boys that, hey, it's okay to read too. It's okay to expound your imagination, your world is wonder, and maybe become an avid reader and ultimately grow up into reading other things, to expound their vocabulary, their imagination. Like I said, we're hopefully growing a new generation of pulp readers. The author is a professor, all right? He's an educator. His name is Richard Kellogg. He's an educator from New York. And he is like one of the preeminent Sherlock Holmes authorities in the world and belongs to so many Sherlock Holmes clubs and whatever. Well, what happened was Mr. Kellogg learned that we were doing Sherlock Holmes books, and we have been doing them since we started. It's another avenue of what we do. We consider Sherlock Holmes escapist literature as well, that Conan Doyle created. So Kellogg, being a huge Sherlock Holmes fan, decides, well, wouldn't it be cool to write a children's book targeting the age group now, like between 7 and 10, to have kids read about a boy their age whose hero is this brilliant detective. And that becomes this entry world into that world. So that's our goal. Our goal is to sell Barry Baskerville to this 7 to 10-year-old group that supposedly will familiarize themselves with deductive reasoning, intelligence, logic, and by the time these kids get out of grade school and go to high school, walk into a lit class one day in their freshman year of high school, and the teacher says, oh, today we're going to read The Red-Headed League by Arthur Conan Doyle. And they start reading this and they go, oh, wait a minute, I got a children's book at home about this little kid who wanted to be this character, Sherlock Holmes. And so that's the connection. That's how that works.
Well, we have a website that lists all of our books, Airship27Hangar.com. And it lists all of our books. At that site, you can buy a PDF version of it, or by going through there, you can see what books we have. Every book that we have is listed on Amazon.com as well. We also have some of our books that are at CreateSpace, because that's essentially the people who print our books.
And mention Kindle, please.
Oh, and every one of our books since January of last year, we're also putting them in the Kindle format for a Kindle reader. So, and I'm also going back and doing our older books, and I'm working my way through our catalog now to get everything on the Kindle, because we're seeing a growing audience for the electronic ebooks.
DRG would like to thank Windy City Pulp and Paper for their assistance. Contact them at windycitypulpandpaper.com.